Let's be real. Getting rid of unwanted hair can feel like a full-time job. But what if a simple beam of light could call a long-term truce in that battle? Well, today we are diving deep into laser hair removal, the science, what really happens, and all the crucial details you absolutely need to know.
You know the drill, right? You deal with razor burn, you mess with those sticky wax strips, or you get that perfect shave only to feel stubble popping up just hours later. It is a constant, frustrating cycle. But what if there was a way to press pause on all of that? Maybe even for good. Well, that potential solution is a seriously high-tech one. It was born in a laboratory, and now it's pretty common to see in clinics everywhere. But how exactly did we get from a lab experiment to a mainstream treatment?
So this might feel like a really modern invention, but the groundwork for it was actually laid decades ago. It spent about 20 years just in the experimental phase. Then, in the mid-90s, it finally hit the market. A huge milestone came in 1997 when the US FDA gave it the official stamp of approval. And by 1998, the first major studies were getting published, really cementing its place in the world of dermatology.
Okay, so let's get into the fun part, the science of the zap. How in the world can a beam of light just stop hair from growing? The idea behind it is actually surprisingly clever and incredibly precise.
The entire process really hinges on this one concept, selective photothermolysis. I know it's a mouthful, but the most important word in there is selective. The whole goal is to heat up and destroy a very, very specific target, the hair follicle, without messing with the skin around it.
So here's how it all goes down. First, the laser shoots out a pulse of light. Then, the dark pigment in your hair, that's called melanin, soaks up that light energy. Just think about how a black t-shirt gets way hotter in the sun than a white one. It's the exact same principle. That light energy then turns into heat, which zips down the hair shaft and damages the follicle. You know, the little factory that actually makes the hair.
And right here, you can really see that selectivity in action. The energy is laser-focused, literally, right on that hair follicle, while the skin around it, which doesn't have as much pigment, is basically left untouched. That precision is the secret sauce to the whole thing. Now, because that laser is hunting for pigment, the absolute perfect scenario is having a big contrast between your hair and your skin. So dark, coarse hair on lighter skin, that's the sweet spot. The laser can easily see and zap the hair. And this is also why it's pretty much ineffective on really light blonde, gray, or red hair. There just isn't enough melanin for the laser to grab onto.
All right, let's tackle the million-dollar question. Is it actually permanent? This is where we really have to manage our expectations, because the answer is probably one of the most misunderstood things about this whole treatment.
Let's go straight to the source on this one. The US FDA, the agency that approved the technology, doesn't clear it for permanent hair removal. Their official term is permanent hair reduction, and trust me, that one word makes all the difference. So, let's be super clear about this. The treatment is designed to permanently reduce the total number of hairs you have, but it's not necessarily going to permanently remove every single hair. Lots of follicles get destroyed for good, but some might just be damaged and could recover years down the line, which means you might see some regrowth.
Okay, so if you're thinking this might be for you, what kind of machine should you be looking for? Well, it turns out there's more than one type of laser out there, and picking the right one is absolutely critical.
You've got lasers like the alexandrite, which is pretty versatile, the diode, which is great for pale to medium skin, and then there's the NDYG. Now, the NDYG is often the safest bet for darker skin tones because its wavelength is longer, letting it bypass the pigment in the skin and go straight for the hair follicle. The big takeaway here is that matching the machine to your skin type isn't just a suggestion, it's vital for your safety and for getting good results.
And you've probably also heard of something called IPL, or intense pulse light. It gets lumped in with laser hair removal all the time, but it's not the same thing. Instead of that single, focused beam of light like a true laser, IPL uses a broad spectrum of light, kind of like a super powerful camera flash.
So, how do they all stack up against each other? Well, a big review article from 2006 looked at hair reduction after 6 months and found something pretty surprising. When it comes to how well they work, they're all remarkably similar. The alexandrite, the diode laser, and even IPL were all performing in pretty much the same ballpark.
But, and this is a big but, that's only half the story. That same study looked at the rate of side effects, which were all temporary, by the way, and here you see a much clearer difference. The diode laser had the highest rate of side effects by a long shot, while the alexandrite had the lowest. It just goes to show you, effectiveness is only one piece of the puzzle.
So we've talked science, we've talked technology, but what's the reality of the treatment? What can you actually expect when you walk in for a session?
Well, first things first,
If you're hoping for a one-and-done kind of solution, this isn't it. Not even close. Most people need at least 8 treatments to get the results they're after, and for some areas, it might be even more than that.
And there's a simple biological reason for that. See, your hair grows in 3 different phases, but the laser can only really work its magic when the hair is in its active growth phase, which is called the anagen phase. The problem is, not all your hairs are in that phase at the same time, so you need to keep going back for more sessions, spaced weeks apart, to catch every hair at just the right moment. Now, after a session, it's totally normal to experience some mild, temporary side effects. We're talking things like a little itching, some pink or red skin, maybe some minor swelling. That's all completely expected. The key thing to remember is that this stuff almost always goes away within 2 or 3 days.
Okay, one last thing, and this is incredibly important. The rules for who's allowed to operate these powerful machines are all over the place. In some areas, it's the Wild West. Almost anyone can do it. But in others, like Florida for example, it is strictly considered a medical procedure. So please, always check your local laws and make sure you're going to someone who is qualified and experienced. So, we've gone through everything from the science of light to the biology of hair. So now, the final verdict. After hearing all of this, is it actually the right choice for you?
Let's just break it down one last time. On the pro side, you get effective, long-term hair reduction. It's fast and it's precise. But the cons are real too. It's not total, permanent removal. It doesn't work on light hair, and it requires a pretty big investment of both time and money. Plus, there's always a risk of side effects.
And that really brings us to the final question you have to ask yourself. Now that you know the whole story, that this is about a significant long-term reduction in hair, not a completely smooth forever result, is that outcome worth the investment for you? Honestly, the answer is going to be different for every single person.